Hello, I'm Michael Kujan, working with our Adult Faith Formation team to bring you our series on Catholic morality. We just had our 5th of 6 sessions dealing with the nature of human action ordered to what is good in the plan of God. This past week, what we did is we took a look at how we can assess or evaluate our moral actions, because there are so many decisions we make every day, and many of them involve moral choices. So we should be striving to be responsible in all the choices we make, grounded in our Christian tradition as disciples of Christ. So there are 3 important things to keep in mind when making a decision. First of all, what exactly are you doing? And what are your reasons for doing it? And finally, what are the circumstances surrounding what's going on? First of all, let's go back to the first part. What are you doing? This is what we call the moral object. It's basically the kind of thing you're doing that has a moral dimension to it. Because as humans, we have an ability to do good or evil. And when we do certain things that are inherently good, then that is great. It helps bring fulfillment to our human nature. It brings us closer to God. But if we do things that are inherently wrong or evil, that will ultimately detract from our goodness and from our relationships with God and other people. And so it's important when we make decisions to perform acts that are inherently good or at least neutral. Whether you use Crest or Colgate toothpaste doesn't really consist in a moral choice, but whether you help someone in need certainly is. Now, another element to our moral decisions is our intentions. What's going on in our heart when we do something? We might try to give money to the poor, but if we're only doing that to show off and make other people like us and make others feel like they owe us something, that is not a pure motive. That is something that is at worst involving some selfishness. So we want to also discern our hearts to make sure that the things we're doing, as good as they might be on paper, they also involve goodness of the heart. And it's important to know that even if you feel like what you're doing is good, you have to be careful and think carefully about what it is you're actually doing. Because sometimes we might feel like we're doing something okay, but if we just go without examining it, we miss out on the fact that it's potentially evil. Because we always act towards some perceived good, but we have to keep in mind that we shouldn't use things improperly to get at the goals we have. We should never use people to get something good, for example. The third and final element of moral decision making is the circumstances. We always want to make sure not only that what we're doing is good and that our heart is pure, but also that the circumstances going on in the world make it ideal to do the thing we're doing. Sometimes if something's going on, it's best to refrain from doing something until opportunities are better. So pay attention to the circumstances, because these can either make our actions more good or more evil, depending upon what's going on. So on the whole, by looking at what it is we're doing in terms of the moral object of our actions, the intentions of our heart while doing so, and the circumstances going around in our lives, we can make judgments about what is good for our lives. Ultimately, our guidance, though, comes not just from ourselves, it comes from God. God's revelation to us. Now, in our final session in this series, we're going to be looking at how we can be guided by the church, the Holy Spirit, by those in our community, so that we can live morally as Christ desires us to. So, if you can, please join us in our final session this coming Sunday.